Rain hammered against the windows of the Silver Spoon Diner as if the sky itself wanted to break through the glass. The clock above the counter read 2:47 a.m., and Lily Chen wiped down the same table for the third time, her mind wandering between college assignments and the rent payment due in 5 days. The diner sat nearly empty except for an old man nursing cold coffee in the corner booth and the occasional truck driver stopping for fuel and food. She heard the bell above the door chime. A man stumbled inside, his expensive coat soaked through and hanging awkwardly off one shoulder. His hair was plastered to his forehead and his dress shoes left wet prints across the checkered floor. Lily noticed his hands first because they were shaking so violently that he could barely grip the door handle to close it behind him. He made it 3 steps before his knees buckled. Lily dropped her cleaning cloth and rushed forward, catching his arm before he hit the ground completely. His weight surprised her, but adrenaline helped her guide him toward the nearest booth. His breathing came in sharp, painful gasps, each one sounding like it tore through his chest. She grabbed a glass of water from behind the counter and knelt beside the booth where he had collapsed. His eyes were unfocused, staring at something invisible that terrified him. She had seen panic attacks before during her volunteer work at the community health center, but this seemed deeper, more raw. "Hey, can you hear me? Focus on my voice." She kept her tone steady and calm, placing the water on the table within his reach. "You are safe right now. Nobody here will hurt you." His gaze slowly shifted toward her, and for a moment she saw past the fear into something that looked like desperation. He tried to speak, but could only manage broken syllables. His lips formed words that never quite made it into sound. Lily glanced at the television mounted in the corner. The late-night news played on mute, and her breath caught when she saw his face flash across the screen. The headline scrolling beneath read, "Tech billionaire Victor Sterling missing after fraud allegations." She looked back at the man in front of her, really looked at him this time. Even soaked and shaking, she recognized the sharp jawline and intense eyes that had graced magazine covers just months ago. Victor Sterling, the man who had built an empire on artificial intelligence and data security, now sat trembling in a run-down diner at 3 in the morning looking like the world had chewed him up and spit him out. He noticed her recognition and flinched, trying to pull away. "Please, do not call anyone. I just need a moment." Lily made a decision that would change everything. She did not reach for her phone. She did not call the police or alert her manager dozing in the back office. Instead, she sat down across from him and slid the water closer. "Drink first, then we can talk." His hand trembled as he lifted the glass, spilling water down his chin. He managed a few sips before setting it down with a clatter. The color was returning to his face slowly, but the panic still lived in his eyes. "Fragments of a nightmare. They are looking for me." His voice came out rough and broken. "I cannot go back there. If I do, I am finished." Lily studied him carefully. Every instinct told her this was dangerous, that getting involved with someone accused of billion-dollar fraud was the worst possible choice she could make. But something in his expression stopped her from walking away. She had spent years caring for people, reading their pain, understanding when fear was real and when it was performed. This man was genuinely terrified. "Who is looking for you?" "Everyone," he laughed bitterly, a sound that held no humor. "The police, the media, the people who set me up, probably hired investigators by now." "Set you up?" Lily leaned forward slightly. "The news says you stole from your own company." "The news is wrong." His hands curled into fists on the table. "I discovered that someone had been siphoning money through shell accounts for over 2 years. When I tried to expose it, they turned everything around on me. Forged documents, planted evidence, paid off witnesses. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late." He pulled a small flash drive from his inner jacket pocket, holding it like a lifeline. "This is the only proof I have left. Everything else was wiped from my servers." Lily looked at the tiny device, then back at his face. She made another decision that defied all logic. "My shift ends in 20 minutes. You can come with me." His eyes widened. "Why would you help me? You do not even know me." "Because I have seen enough scared people to know when someone is telling the truth." She stood up and grabbed a towel from behind the counter. "And because everyone deserves a chance to prove their innocence, even billionaires." A sanctuary in the storm. Lily's apartment was a fourth-floor walk-up in a neighborhood where sirens were more common than birdsong. The building was old, the kind where the elevator worked only 3 days a week and the heating system had a personality of its own. She unlocked 3 separate locks before pushing the door open quickly, ushering Victor inside. The space was small but clean. A worn couch sat against one wall facing a television that looked older than Lily herself. Books were stacked on every available surface, mostly medical textbooks and nursing journals. A small kitchen occupied one corner, barely big enough for one person to move around in. Victor stood in the middle of the room, looking completely out of place in his expensive, ruined suit. He seemed unable to process how he had ended up here, in this tiny apartment with a girl he had met an hour ago. Lily locked the door behind them and drew the curtains closed. "Sit down before you fall down." He obeyed, sinking onto the couch with a heaviness that suggested his body was finally giving up the fight. She disappeared into the kitchen and returned with hot tea, pressing the mug into his hands. "My grandmother always said tea fixes most problems. It won't fix yours, but it might help you think clearly." He took a sip and closed his eyes. When he opened them again, some of the wild panic had faded slightly. "Why are you doing this?" Lily sat down in the armchair across from him. "Because 6 months ago, my grandmother had a heart attack. The hospital bills nearly destroyed us. Your company has a program that helps families with medical debt. You probably don't even remember signing off on it, but that program saved us. So maybe this is me paying it forward." Victor stared at her for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. "I remember that program. I fought my board for 3 months to get it approved. They said it was not profitable. Well, it saved my family. Now, tell me everything, and don't leave anything out." As rain continued to fall outside, Victor Sterling began to talk. He told her about his former business partner, Richard Moss, about the missing millions, about the carefully constructed web of lies that had trapped him. He spoke until his voice grew hoarse, until dawn started creeping through the curtains, until Lily understood that the man in front of him was not a criminal, but a victim of betrayal so profound it had shattered his entire world. When he finally fell silent, exhausted and hollow, Lily made one more impossible decision. "We are going to prove you are innocent." Victor looked at her like she had just suggested they could fly. "How? I have nothing. No resources, no allies, no way to fight back." Lily smiled, a small, determined expression that held more strength than he expected. "You have me, and sometimes that's enough to start."
Morning light filtered through the thin curtains of Lily's apartment, casting soft shadows across the living room where Victor Sterling sat hunched over a laptop that looked like it had survived several wars. Lily had borrowed it from her study group, an old machine that moved slower than molasses but could not be traced back to either of them. Victor's fingers moved across the keyboard with practiced speed, though his hand still trembled slightly from exhaustion and lingering fear. Lily emerged from the kitchen carrying 2 plates of scrambled eggs and toast. The smell of butter and coffee filled the small space, creating an odd sense of normalcy that felt completely at odds with the situation. She set one plate beside Victor and settled into the armchair with her own breakfast. "You need to eat something. Your brain cannot work on an empty stomach." Victor glanced at the plate but did not reach for it immediately. His eyes were fixed on the screen, scanning through lines of encrypted data he had managed to pull from the flash drive. "I have been surviving on adrenaline and coffee for 3 days. Food seems irrelevant." "That explains why you collapsed in my diner." Lily took a bite of toast and gestured at his plate with her fork. "Eat, or I will force-feed you like I do with stubborn patients at the clinic." Despite everything, a small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. He picked up the fork and took a tentative bite. The simple act of eating seemed to ground him somehow, pulling him back from the edge of whatever dark place his mind had been circling. They ate in companionable silence for a few minutes before Lily spoke again. "Tell me about Richard Moss. How did you two become partners?" Victor set down his fork, his expression darkening. "We met in graduate school at MIT. Both of us were studying artificial intelligence and data architecture. Richard was brilliant, maybe even more naturally gifted than I was, but he lacked patience. He wanted results immediately, success overnight. I was willing to put in the years of work it took to build something sustainable. He paused, staring at his half-eaten eggs as if they held answers to questions he had not asked yet. When we started Sterling Tech 15 years ago, we were equals, 50-50 partners building something revolutionary. But as the company grew, our visions diverged. I wanted to create technology that helped people, systems that could predict and prevent disasters, algorithms that saved lives. Richard saw it all as a means to accumulate power and wealth. "So you had a falling out?" Lily asked gently. "Worse than that. 5 years ago, I discovered he was selling our proprietary technology to foreign governments, countries with terrible human rights records. When I confronted him, he acted remorseful, said it was a mistake, promised to stop." Victor's jaw tightened. "I believed him because we were friends, because I wanted to believe people could change." The grandmother's wisdom. The sound of keys jingling in the door made Victor freeze, his entire body going rigid. Lily placed a calming hand on his arm. "It's just my grandmother. She lives here too." The door opened and Grace Chen entered, a small woman in her early 70s with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun and eyes that missed nothing. She carried 2 grocery bags and paused when she saw Victor, taking in his rumpled appearance and the tension in the room with a single sweeping glance. "Lily, dear, I see we have a guest." Her voice was calm, measured, holding neither judgment nor surprise. "Grandma, this is Victor. He needed help and I offered him a safe place to stay for a while." Grace set the groceries on the kitchen counter and moved closer, studying Victor with the practiced eye of someone who had spent 40 years as an emergency room nurse. She saw past the expensive clothes and the face from television screens, looking instead at the tremor in his hands and the dark circles under his eyes. "You are running from something." It was not a question. Victor started to stand, but Grace waved him back down. "Stay seated before you fall over again. Lily told me you collapsed last night." She disappeared into the kitchen and returned with a glass of water and 2 small pills. "Take these. They will help with the shaking and let you sleep properly." "I do not need medication. I need to stay alert." Grace sat down on the arm of the couch, her expression kind but firm. "Young man, I have seen more trauma cases than you have had hot meals. Your body is running on fumes and fear. If you do not rest properly, your mind will not function when you need it most. Take the pills." Something in her tone brooked no argument. Victor accepted the pills and swallowed them with water. Grace nodded in satisfaction and turned to her granddaughter. "Lily, come help me put away groceries. Our guest needs a moment to himself." In the kitchen, Grace spoke in a low voice while Lily unpacked vegetables and bread. "Do you know what you are doing bringing him here?" "Probably not, but Grandma, he's innocent. Someone framed him, and he has nowhere else to go." Grace was quiet for a moment, arranging cans in the cupboard with precise movements. "Your grandfather used to say that the measure of a person is not how they act when the world is watching, but what they do when they think no one will ever know. You were risking everything for a stranger. You taught me to help people who need it." "I did." Grace turned to face her granddaughter, placing both hands on Lily's shoulders. "I also taught you to be careful. But I see something in that man's eyes. Real fear, yes, but also integrity, the kind that doesn't break even when everything else does." She squeezed Lily's shoulders gently. "So we help him, but we're smart about it." Unraveling the web. By afternoon, Victor had slept for 4 hours, the deepest rest he had managed in days. When he woke, he found Grace sitting in the armchair reading a medical journal while Lily worked on her laptop at the small dining table. The apartment felt surprisingly peaceful, a stark contrast to the chaos of the past week.
Lily Chen moved through the crowded streets of Manhattan with purposeful strides, the flash drive tucked securely in the inner pocket of her jacket. The afternoon sun had disappeared behind thick clouds, casting the city in shades of gray that matched her nervous energy. She kept her head down, but her senses alert, watching reflections in store windows to see if anyone followed her path. The subway ride to Midtown felt longer than usual. She sat wedged between a businessman absorbed in his phone and a mother trying to calm 2 restless children.
Lily clutched her backpack on her lap, feeling the weight of what she carried. Not just the physical evidence, but the responsibility of another person's entire future resting on her shoulders. She thought about Victor Sterling sitting in her tiny apartment, a man who had everything and lost it all in a matter of weeks. There was something deeply human about watching someone powerful become powerless, watching them stripped down to their most vulnerable self. The man she had found in her diner was not the confident billionaire from magazine covers. He was simply a person who needed help, and she had given it without hesitation. The subway lurched to a stop at her station. Lily exited with the crowd and emerged onto a busy street lined with office buildings that stretched toward the sky like glass and steel monuments to ambition. She checked the address she had written down and started walking, counting blocks until she found the building she needed. Jessica Park's office was on the 7th floor of an older building that had character the modern towers lacked. The elevator groaned as it carried Lily upward, the numbers lighting up slowly as if the machine itself was exhausted from years of service. When the doors finally opened, she stepped into a hallway with worn carpet and walls that needed fresh paint. The office door read, "Park Investigations," in simple black letters. Lily took a deep breath, steadied her nerves, and knocked. "Come in," a voice called from inside. The journalist's scrutiny. Jessica Park sat behind a desk covered in papers, file folders, and 3 different laptops in various states of operation. She was a woman in her late 30s with sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail. She looked up from whatever she was reading and studied Lily with an expression that missed nothing. "Can I help you?" Lily closed the door behind her and approached the desk. "My name is Lily Chen. I have information about Victor Sterling that I think you need to see." Jessica's posture shifted immediately, her full attention now focused on the young woman in front of her. Victor Sterling? The missing tech billionaire accused of massive fraud? That Victor Sterling? He is innocent, and I can prove it. Jessica leaned back in her chair, her expression skeptical but intrigued. "Honey, do you have any idea how many people have walked into this office claiming they have evidence that will clear someone's name? About 90% of them are delusional, and the other 10% are trying to scam me. I am neither." Lily pulled the flash drive from her pocket and placed it on the desk. "Everything you need is on here. Bank records, email communications, proof that Richard Moss has been embezzling from Sterling Tech for years and framing Victor for his crimes." Jessica picked up the drive, turning it over in her fingers. "Where did you get this?" "From Victor himself. He has been hiding because Richard's people are hunting him. The police think he is guilty, the media has already convicted him, and he has nowhere to turn, so he turned to me. And who exactly are you to Victor Sterling?" Lily met the journalist's gaze steadily. "Someone who believes everyone deserves a chance to prove their innocence, even billionaires." Something in Lily's tone must have struck a chord because Jessica's skepticism softened slightly. She plugged the flash drive into one of her laptops and began scrolling through files. Her eyes widened as she took in the scope of what she was seeing. This is extensive. If this is legitimate, it is one of the biggest corporate fraud cases in a decade. She looked up at Lily. "But I need to verify everything, and I need to talk to Sterling himself." "That is not possible right now. It is too dangerous for him to be seen in public." Jessica removed her glasses and rubbed the bridge of her nose. "Then we have a problem. I cannot publish a story this big solely on documents that could have been fabricated. I need corroboration, witness testimony, something beyond data on a drive." Lily felt her heart sink. She had been so focused on getting the evidence to someone who could help that she had not thought through all the complications. "What do you need?" "I need to examine these documents thoroughly, verify the account numbers and transactions, confirm the email headers are authentic. That will take me at least 48 hours. Jessica stood and moved to a filing cabinet, pulling out a folder. "I also need to contact some sources, people who might be willing to go on record about Richard Moss or Sterling Tech's internal operations." "Will you help us?" Lily asked quietly. Jessica looked at the young woman standing in her office, seeing determination mixed with fear.
courage wrapped around desperation. She had been in journalism long enough to recognize when someone was telling the truth. "I will investigate. If the evidence holds up, I will publish the story. But understand something, this is dangerous territory. Richard Moss is not just some corporate criminal. If half of what these files suggest is true, he has connections to some very bad people. Going after him means putting targets on all our backs." "I understand. I hope you do." Jessica handed Lily a business card with only a phone number written on it. "This is a secure line. Call me in 2 days and I will tell you what I have found. In the meantime, keep Sterling hidden and keep yourself safe." The ambush. Lily left the office feeling lighter than when she had arrived, hope blooming in her chest for the first time since this whole situation began. She retraced her